What's up, everybody? And thanks for tuning in. So, doing things a little differently once again today. Not doing authors today, not doing bloggers today. We're actually talking to my good buddy, Robert McClellan. We're going to be talking about building some websites and all the stuff that he does over at ModFarm. But Rob, first of all, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you.
Good, good. Glad to hear it. Yeah, it's so Rob and I we go way back. I mean, I say way back. I mean, it's been less than a decade, but we've known each other for quite a while. We've known each other, since I really started getting into reading again. I think we kind of met through like Michael Bunker and Nick Cole and kind of that crew back when self-pub was, I guess, still kind of in its early stages. But now we've kind of come back full circle, and I'm glad to be chatting with you.
I'm glad to be here too. It's awesome to see, what you came in and how big FanFi Addict has gotten. I remember when you came in Third Scribe and just kind of wanted a little site set up, and now you're the man. Look at you.
No, we're still not the man, but I appreciate it.
I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, back then, like I didn't even have a website, didn't even have a blog. I mean, I was just putting some reviews on Amazon, and then then at that transition over to Booknest, and then came over to WordPress to start this one. So, but now, I mean, it's gotten a little bigger, I guess, since the beginning.
Yeah.
I say a little. Now we've got all these contributors, and it's honestly becoming hard to handle.
See what we can do to help you.
There you go. So just kind of how I always start these. Just tell me about yourself. Tell me what I don't already know, but tell the audience about yourself and kind of what you do.
Well, I am Rob McClellan, and I run a company called ModFarm, ModFarm Design, and we specialize in websites for the book community. So primarily authors, editors, publishers, and we're starting to expand into book bloggers, and we want to try to tie everything all together. So we kind of provide a big one-stop shop. Design, set up, all the tools you need. Support if you need it or want it. Newsletters if you need it or want it. Whatever it is that you need for your web presence, we provide. And we're getting pretty good at it. So I started out with a company called Third Scribe way back in 2012. I think we launched it, maybe early 2013. And I ran that until 2018. And we had a lot of people in it, a lot of sites, a lot of stuff. But like any.com, it eventually kind of folded, which was a sad day. But 6 years is a pretty good run for anything. I mean, we held on and we didn't lose our shirts, so that wasn't so bad. But I closed doors on that in 2018, and we kind of took a year off and really started to rethink what we were doing and how we were providing it. And the result of that was ModFarm. So it was a lot more personal touch, a lot more website and direct client focus, and people really seem to like it. So that one kind of took off, and we're still doing it now. And
I gotcha. So what made you want to focus, I guess, on the book community, authors and editors and publishers in particular?
I just loved it. I'm a huge reader. I have been since I was a little kid, and I just, as I got more into websites and kind of more into the internet age, I would go to author websites and they would suck, and I'd be like, we can do better than this. Like we can help. I can do something. And I remember I started out with a couple one-off things. Like in 2009, I think I built my first one for an author, and we just kind of started iterating from there. And then the vision behind Third Scribe was to say, well, why can't we mass produce it? Like if everyone kind of wants the same thing, and why don't we fold in Goodreads and this review capability and these social structures and all these other things? And we said, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that. And we found out that no one really wanted that, but they did want a good website. So that was the primary thing. But the social tools, no one ever used them. No one built communities around their books. No one did any of that because they were like, well, I just go to Facebook. And I was like, well, this is a lot more direct, and I don't care, go on to Facebook. I was like, okay. So, it kind of showed that what we thought would be a neat thing wasn't really what the market wanted. Um, and that's okay. I mean, that's what it's about. So at that point, I've been working with authors for so long at that point, and I really kind of felt I knew their needs. And I was also working with a lot more editors and book bloggers at that point and really looking at what they wanted to do. And I just felt like, hey, why relearn another niche? I mean, there's plenty more to do here, and these needs don't go away. And I like these people and they like me, and I know what they want. So let's go with that.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of a work followed passion kind of thing, so yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah, I remember Third Scribe, because that was back when they were trying to launch that big author centric world, the Apocalypse Weird. I don't know if you remember that.
I ran it. I was a publisher.
That was kind of like my first experience doing like a lot of reviews, because I know, because I was really good friends with Bunker and with Cole, and became good friends with all the authors that were in that series. Which, man, I hate that never like super took off. It was such a fantastic experience. I mean, Mike Corley doing all those amazing covers, great gang of authors. But if that ever were to see the light of day, I think it would garner a lot of readership. It was just a great experience, at least for me.
I'd love if we had the ability to bring it back. And I've talked to Cole and Bunker. I mean, we're still pretty close, and I mean, we're all busy now, so not as close, but we're still not as close as we were back then.
Yeah.
But we're still pretty tight, and we catch up, every couple of months and find out what everybody's doing. But they're, with Nick, it was like we just couldn't sell it. Like we couldn't figure out like how to get people into it. And I was like you, I really loved it. I thought all the stories were good. I read all of them, and I still want Nick to finish his series of it, and I know he'll get back to it eventually, but he's like, I got other things that pay so much more, that do so much more. It's hard to get back to the passion project of it. But you're right, we were ahead of our time. It was very much ahead of its time. And now there's a lot more shared worlds going on that are probably a little more successful. But back then we just to be honest, we just didn't know how to sell it.
Yeah.
We really didn't. We were kind of like, this is a great idea, and the guys had been so used to their marketing kind of carrying through. Like in the early days of Kindle, if you just had something decent up, it would sell. And by the time Apocalypse Weird hit, it wasn't that easy anymore.
Yeah.
Because the library was growing. There were more things in there. There was more, you went from a few thousand books on Kindle to a few million books to thousands of books added a day.
Yeah.
And we just didn't know how to market it back then. And then other people in the community really started getting a lot more into talking about advertising and talking about metrics and talking about Amazon. But by then we were kind of out of our seed capital, and we're like, we're out.
Yeah. I mean, of course, Nick now has the Galaxy's Edge thing, which is just taken off like insane. Him and Anspatch. I mean, it's just it's crazy, because I'm always seeing them somewhere, like Audible or Amazon. I mean, it's
everyone wants to talk to them.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I remember, because they were both on Third Scribe. Jason had an account, but he managed his own site. But Nick, we ran everything for Nick. And I remember when that thing went off, I was just like, oh wow, there's 2,000 hits on Nick's site this morning. That's not normal. Oh wait, it's 10,000. Oh shit, it's 20,000. Oh, I was actually on vacation, and I didn't know they had launched it, or that it had really done anything. He's like, oh yeah, we're gonna launch this thing. Oh, okay, I really didn't think that much of it, and they were thinking that it was just gonna be like a real sleeper, and it wasn't, and it just took off. And I was like, dude, what's going on? He's like, well, I'm not really sure, but it's good. So I was like, that's good, you know. But no, and then it just, I mean, whew, lightning in a
Yeah.
bottle for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I mean, it's
amazing how
just,
many
it just
opportunities
keeps
happen.
going. And you know, it helps having RC Bray as your narrator
It
because,
did.
you know,
Yeah.
audiobook aficionados love them some RC Bray. So,
The Audible really, it's incredible how much of an impact that's made,
mhm.
you know. And yeah, that reflected what we did some upgrades to the ModFarm engine last I think late last year to get more audio integrated, to be able to do audio samples and different things in there that I'm not a huge audio guy, so sometimes it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, audiobook's really great, because I'm like, I don't really like audiobooks, you know. I can't focus on them, you know, like I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
books, I have to read them.
Yeah.
And they're, you know, but guys are like outselling books, you know, 3 to 1. You know, we're writing specifically for audio now. We're audio first. We're audio, you know, it's like it's a big deal. So
Mhm.
it's incredible how much that changed. Even though traditional pub authors, Christian Cameron's books all came out and they were audio book day and date release. Like they all came out together. And usually
Mhm.
they stagger that stuff out for months.
Yeah.
They were like, nope, all together. They're starting to catch on too.
Yeah. Yeah. I know a lot of traditional pubs now will do that same day. They'll do like a hardcover release and the paperback will be the one that goes down the
Yeah.
line. But now, I mean, even with like self pub stuff, if you know, if you get a
Yeah.
podium contract, you know, 6 8 months after your book's published, the audiobook will be published. Yeah, depending on pandemic stuff and all those
The bigger
those little
guys
bits. But
the bigger guys will time it to be with audio. They won't release it
yeah,
without. They'll be like, no, we'll wait.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Now, you know, a lot of you know, the self pub, especially like debuts or even, you know, third or fifth books down the line, you know, if they start selling, then they can get that audio contract because a lot of them don't like ACX. I've heard a lot of nightmares about ACX, so a lot of them will wait and see if they can get a deal. But and I've seen, you know, issues where, which I mean, I think Zach Argyle posted the other day about how somebody went in and recorded a copy of his book on audio and posted it up to sell, and I'm like, oh gosh, that's happening now.
I
So
have
it's
actually
crazy.
seen a lot of that on YouTube.
Really.
Well, I see people, and I don't know if they're just like practicing or if they are trying to audition for things and work on their voice. But I'll see people narrate books that aren't. They're not doing it for money. They're just like doing it. And I don't know if it's like this is my, you know, audition piece or what, but
Right.
you can go and find, you know, several books out that, you know, just some guys doing. They'll read The Hobbit, they'll read this, they'll read that. You know, they'll just do it. And I mean, it's not like they do it for 15 minutes. You know, they're doing the
Right.
whole thing. Like it's
Right.
like 40 hours. You know, they're like, you know, every week they're releasing another, you know, hour plus of audio. You know, you can get the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
You know, so
Nobody has time for that.
well, evidently people that want to be voice actors have time for that because that's what they want to do. You know.
Jeez. Well, let's talk a little bit about ModFarm. So tell me exactly what ModFarm is, and I guess kind of how you came up with it. I mean, I know you had Third Scribe before, but you know what makes ModFarm different?
Well, Third Scribe was really kind of a mash of stuff. Like I said, it was like a big platform. So it was, we kind of looked at it and said, what if you combined, you know, Goodreads, Facebook, and WordPress into a single service? And then we threw newsletters and stuff in there too. So it was really comprehensive,
Mhm.
and probably too comprehensive. Like I think it was a thing that most people really couldn't grasp everything that it could do. I mean, to
Mm.
be honest, I made it, and sometimes I couldn't grasp all the things it could do. You know, but it was a broad platform. But we found that the only thing that the authors really used was the website.
Mm.
They didn't use. We had this very fascinating, you know, and really effective too, book management system. It was all the stuff that they could use, and they didn't. They never really used it very much. And so that infrastructure though was very expensive to maintain, and we just couldn't justify it anymore. So I was like, you know, this is not an easy thing to keep going. and people are only using like this little 15% over here.
Mhm.
So when we shut it down, which really broke my heart. But when we made the decision to shut it down, I kind of took some time off and said, okay, after I was kind of like, I'm done with websites for a while. Like I really need to like do something else. And
Mhm.
so I like bummed around, and I had a day job, and I cook the kids to school, and kind of like live the life a little bit, decompressed. And then I was like, I think I'm ready to go back into it. And my wife was like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, I'll just do a client or two, just something to keep my interest up, like
Right.
just not really for big money or anything like that, just keep a little bit. And
Mhm.
so Christian Cameron, I had found his books and devoured them. I started with the Red Knight, Trader Sun cycle.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, he's like a whole nother person. He does other books. And then I was like, oh, I should read this. I'll read some of those too.
It's all of
And,
two people.
yeah, actually, it's three people.
Mhm.
And
True.
then and so I remember going to his website, and it was just indecipherable. I mean, like he had no idea. And
Mhm.
the real issue was I was trying to find out what the next book was, because he had written them a while back. And so I was like reading the Chivalry series, and I was like, well, what's the next book? And because he was Trade Pub, they didn't index it in Amazon the way that a self pub guy would.
Mhm.
So if you went to the book page in Amazon, it would just say, that's it. That's all the book there is, and now you
Right.
got to hunt. Like, well, which one is the second one, And so I'm crawling all over the internet trying to find out what I'm supposed to read next. And so I burnt through a bunch of them. And then I really like Tom Swan. That was
Mhm.
like my favorite ones. But so I just said, I'm just going to tell this guy, hey, your website sucks. And maybe I can help you. So I think that's what I actually said, and I can't believe he like took the call. And he was like, "Well, what would you suggest?" And I was like, "Well, I think we should try something like this, and I really like to be able to help you." And he was like, "Well, I don't think my website will do anything." And I was like, "Well, why don't you let me give you a shot?" And so he's like, "All right, well, yeah." I said, "Look, I got half of it done already. I just did it, for my own fun, and I'll just add the other half. And if you like it, you can start paying, the subscription for it, the hosting costs." And he's like, "Okay, sure, so you're done." So I took like 2 weeks and polished the thing off, and I entered all of his books, which he had a lot at that point. He was like 40-ish, like around then, and put them all in there, and it looked real nice. And he was like, "Oh my gosh, that's really amazing! I love it." And so we did for him, which I did for the first couple authors, but I have too many now to manage it. Was I went through and I benchmarked. I actually made a spreadsheet, and I benchmarked all his books about what their sales rank was on Amazon, what his author rank was, and all this stuff. And I was like, I'm gonna prove that this works. I'm gonna do something here. I'm gonna make this happen. And so we ran it for, I don't know, 3-4 months, and I got back to him and I said, hey, I went back and re-benchmarked your stuff, and you're up. All your rankings are up, 20 to 40%. I was like, are you seeing any difference in your sales? And he says, well, I don't really know, because the publisher runs all that. He says, but I get a statement coming up in a couple months, and I'll let you know what we got. And I said, great, let me know what we got. So, but he was happy. He was just happy that it was there, and we
Yeah.
were seeing a lot more traffic. Like his traffic improved right away. Like it went from, really very little to, several hundred hits a day, which was a huge improvement over like 10.
Oh yeah.
So he was just happy with the whole thing. He loved how it looked and everything like that. Well, then we got the numbers in, and he called me, which he doesn't usually call me. And he's like, we need to talk about these numbers. And so I was like, shit, he tanked. He's
Right. Right.
fail. This is over.
It's the only reason he would call.
And he calls and he's like, my sales are up 50%.
Wow.
And I was like, are you kidding me? And he's like, I think so. He's like, I don't know. He says it's way bigger than it used to be. And I was like, well, 50% is a lot. I don't think it went up that much. And so he kind of went back through it and he's like, no, I says, but it was 20%. He's like, it's a real 20%.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, that's a huge thing for me. He's like, that's, I haven't seen a royalty check this big in a long time.
Wow.
And I was like, well, that's awesome. And he's like, it is awesome. And he's like, and we're going to keep doing this. And I was like, awesome. And so we like convinced him to start a newsletter and do more things. And he actually he got a bunch of signups. He started leveraging that with his traditional publisher. I think he got a little better advanced terms, or at least he got an easier time selling the books he got. I don't know. I don't know the exact details, but he seemed to kind of intimate in our conversations that this was a much better process for him than had been in the past. And so I was like, well, that's great. And in the meantime, other people started seeing that he had the site and he started telling his friends, and, we just kind of started growing it up.
Yeah.
And it's been a few years now with him, I think. And then when the pandemic hit, my day job was pretty much shut down. So I do a lot of, I used to, I don't do as much of it now because I do this, but I still do a little. But I used to do international kind of engineering, maritime work. And that was my training. I'm an engineer. And well, all travel was gone. All international work was gone. All large, like that budget level projects were put on hold as countries were trying to, hold their money and figure out what they were going to do. And some of my companies like, well, you got a lot of leave saved. You might want to think about that some. And we'll check back in a couple months and, type of thing. And I was like, shit.
Yeah.
So I just looked at my wife and I looked at what was going on and I said, people still want websites. We're doing this full time.
Mm-hmm.
We're diving in. And so at that point, I just really kicked it into gear and we've been just climbing heavily ever since. So previously ModFarm was, I say previously, it still is, but was a very much a boutique thing. You came to me, I would make you something very custom, almost from scratch, exactly to your spec. And but I found that after 4, 5, 6, 10 of these, everyone wants the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so many ways you can show your book. There's only so many ways you can present your newsletter. There's only so many ways you can do things, and so it's been kind of running and gunning, but the last 6 months I've really been taking a lot of these lessons and trying to say, okay, well, how can we streamline this process? Not only just for me building them, but I get a lot of requests from authors for like a DIY kind of thing. Like, well, is there a way that I can build this myself?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, not unless you're really familiar with how this works. There's no way you could duplicate what we put into these.
Mm-hmm.
But as I started getting more and more of those requests, I was just like, well, okay, how can we rebuild our system to streamline it? How can we change things to do that? And so I started taking a lot of tools that we were already using and saying, well, how can I rebuild this so that I don't need to customize it this way? I don't need to assemble it, in this way. I don't need to add code tweaks. I can just program the whole thing in and just have some drop downs and selections. And so I've been doing that for about 6 months, and we're just launched a beta 2 weeks ago with a handful of authors to start testing at this level to say, okay, what can we make? The rule is no code. You can't do nothing. If I can't just do it from a drop down, then I gotta scrap it and write another thing and upgrade it. And that's going really well. So we're hoping that we can go in that direction, because a lot of people don't want to put, $500, $600, $700 up front, and then have a service contract with it. They just like, well, why can't I just make it like WordPress? And I was like, and part of that is to say, well, if you're asking me that question, you're answering your own question. Because if it was so good over there, you wouldn't be coming to me,
Right.
Because obviously it's not the same, if you want but I think that there is some effort that we can do to make it more so, and a little. My goal is that I want every author to be able to have a website that really fits their needs, and that they can do themselves with, a short range of instructions, just to say, okay, here's your checklist of 10 things, and they're real easy to set up. Just make sure you check that your name is here, make sure your books are entered, make sure this thing's here, make sure this thing's here, all done.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Okay.
And we'll see.
How do you differ from other website designers?
I think that for most, they kind of do the design and they walk away. And I've seen that with a lot of authors, even big name authors who went to some of the bigger studios, probably when they got their first contract, or or got their first big contract, and they'll either their publisher will hook them up, or they'll go and Clockpunk or somebody will one of the big names
Mhm.
will do their site, and they make a beautiful site. I mean, I'm never gonna say anything about any of these companies. They make a great
Yeah.
site.
Yeah.
And they pay for that too. I mean, generally their sites are several $1,000s, and I think they're probably worth every penny.
Mhm.
But then once they hand it over to the author, they walk away.
Mhm.
That's kind of the end.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we made it for you. You got this. And they don't manage.
Here's a small set of instructions, and
Right.
good luck.
You got this. Go for it. And what we found, or what I found at least, is that authors really don't like to update their website. And as a result, their website no longer performs for them.
Mhm.
So they'll, it was beautiful that those first couple months, and then, I mean, a lot of the websites are just out of date.
Mhm.
They're I've seen authors, pretty big name authors, who have had multiple releases since what's on the front page of their website. And
Yeah,
there's
I have to say I've seen the
nothing
same
there,
thing.
and they might be 2 years out of date or more, and there's nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And so part of what we do is that we stay with you.
Mhm.
We will host you, we will make sure everything's current, we will maintain your site security, we'll run all the speed metrics, we'll keep it fast. But we also have a service tier that we do all the updates for you, not just, hey, because a lot of times with the website service, you'll go and they'll say, well, we'll maintain your website for $50 a month or something. But all that really is just plugin updates.
Mhm.
So we do that in the background. We're doing that anyway. We know exactly what's in your site because we put it there. So we know what we can update safely and not. But what we found is that authors really need help getting their book entered. And so we said, well, for a little extra fee there, which really isn't very much, we'll maintain all that for you. And literally, I'll just get an email or a text message or a Facebook message more often than not, that says, hey, I have a new book coming out. It's available for pre-order on Amazon. Here's the title. And I'll say, okay. And so I'll search Amazon, I'll find it, I'll get the cover art, I'll get the blurb, I'll get all the links, and I'll put it in there. And there it is, ready for pre-order. And then we'll track it. So we have click tracking through everything, and I monitor all the analytics, and I can say, hey, I can get back to them and say, hey, this pre-order is really doing great. You had 700 clicks so far. I mean, some people don't care. They're just like, oh man, that's great. And some people really care. Like, it's a big deal for them.
Yeah.
They want. I've had some authors that are really business focused and they really want to know, and I've had others that are just happy that their website's current and don't care about anything else. They're just, oh, it's fine. So that's all I care about.
Yeah.
People managing their newsletter was a big thing. Helping them get their newsletter together, get it all signed up, get it connected to whatever they wanted to connect it to, help with getting their incentives up. Hey, I want to change the incentive to this story to this story. Okay. Done. And that's been very helpful. So I think that's kind of the difference. We don't just design it and give it to you. We stay. you know, it's
Do
kind
you
of like
also send notifications to remind authors, hey, you have books coming out?
I do that. And some will remind me, and they're like, hey, you know, we really want to get on this or whatever. But others, I'll ping them and be like, hey man, you might want to send a newsletter out. You might want to send a little something.
Yeah.
Hey, how about we push this? I've written a few of them. I say, hey, I haven't heard from you. You got a book coming out next week. We drafted this up for you. Why don't you take a look at it? Oh man, that's great. Go ahead and send it. Great, we'll send it. Oh
Hey,
yeah.
you might want to let people know that you have a cover and there's a book in like 6 months that you can pre-order, and you've got a special
Yeah.
pre-order price if you actually
That's
want to
right.
get some sales. I mean, you can only do so much on like Twitter and Facebook because the way the algorithms work, and depending how many followers you have and how many people they follow, there is a massive chance that people don't see it.
Oh yeah, and it's hard, but and I think we kind of really fell into that niche a little bit to
Mhm.
say, hey, one, we want you to have a good website, but two, if you don't have the time to run it yourself, we're happy to help you.
Yeah.
And it was a big focus for us to keep the cost really low. Just because we know, there is a world where some of the bigger self-pub guys will spend many thousands of dollars a month on advertising, but they won't put $5 into their website.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of a mistake.
Hmm.
I think that there's as you use your website more, it does more for you, and it's this sort of passive background thing that just keeps churning along. And I've had several people tell me, oh well, authors, websites don't sell books or whatever, and I was like, well, no offense, but I got a lot of click data here that says something entirely different.
Hmm.
And you might want to, I'm willing to show it to you and have a chance if you want to.
Yeah, especially for readers that don't, either use social media for a book community type thing. They don't follow bloggers. They don't follow publishers. I mean, if you're gonna go buy a book from your favorite author, you're probably gonna Google them. So, or go to Amazon. So, it kind of, two paths.
It's funny because I have a lot of authors that think social media is really driving a lot of what they do. And, we have metrics, deep metrics on every site. And I can tell them, well, 80% of people came to your site from Google search. Organic search was your primary driver.
Yeah.
5% from this, even their email newsletter doesn't drive nearly as much as search does.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can we can go through and say someone searched, they landed here on this book, and then they read it but they didn't buy. They clicked see the full series, they came over here, and then they went through these three, and then they bought this one. And they're like, how do you know that? And I'm like, because that's my job to know that. Like, because I actually put analytics in your site, which you've never had before.
Right.
And I can tell you exactly what they did.
That's some like really detailed stuff that I would like to see more of. That's really cool that you can like actually see what all they click to get to a certain.
Oh yeah.
Thing.
And I did a thing with, we have a small private group for the clients on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
And I posted a thing and said a lot of times, we were looking at how readers come to the site and how often they come to the site and what they do. And we said that a lot of people show up, a lot of people repeat, and they usually don't buy on the first visit. They buy on the second or third. And you can watch them do it. They'll come, they'll search, they'll look at some things, come back, search, look at some things, come back, and then they'll buy. And it's like, it's a different thing than an ad. An ad is like a target. It's like, I sent a thing, they clicked on it, did they buy or not buy?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't know, but that ad's gone. Like as soon as they clicked on it, they're never seeing that again.
Yeah.
I was like, the website's sort of this thing that's just it's like a slow burning machine that just keeps churning. And it's impressive to see how much people will go. And if you have a larger library like Christian does, or Craig Martell does, or Chris Kennedy Publishing, we run them. That's 200 something books in there, and you can watch them go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books a visit, because they just search through series and kind of go through things and look around, and they'll, because we manage, we kind of have a standard template for books, so we're looking at if they bought something, if they read a sample, if they went to Goodreads and looked at reviews, or if they went to see the rest of the series.
Mm.
And most of the clicks are to buy. That's the big driver. It's probably used to be 50%. It's probably a little higher than that now, probably 60% now. But read a sample and see full series pretty much splits the difference. And reviews are really small. It's maybe 4%. We'll go to see the reviews on Goodreads or something.
Mm.
But most of them are they're searching. They want to know what's in there.
Yeah.
And so they that's what they click. So if they don't know that they want it, like if they don't know if they came here and this is what I want to get, then they'll definitely read or sample, or they'll go to see the full series. Maybe if they stumbled on book 3 and they want to go back and see all the rest, or see if the series is finished or whatever, they'll definitely click around.
Interesting. Okay. What sorts of tools do you use to increase viewership on a website?
Man, that's tough. I think SEO and social integration really help. We have some tools that really help tailoring that. I think cleanliness of navigation helps a lot for repeats.
Yeah.
Because if you go to a website and you can't find what you want, or you it's hard to kind of move around,
Mm-hmm.
people don't come back.
Yeah.
Like, it's a waste, this website sucks, I'm not going back to that. They start looking at other venues. So part of that is if I can make sure that people can find what they want easily, that seems to get more repeat traffic. Like, traffic seems to kind of grow at that point. But I will say that upping your SEO tools helps, because again, search is a huge driver. I think it's a lot more than, it's seriously a lot more than people give it credit for. Like, a lot of traffic comes from search.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are kind of the big ones. I'd like to have social sharing tools in there, not the buttons. I mean, I have them, like here to share on Facebook. No one ever clicks on those. I have them almost like to remind people that they can share it,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if anyone really clicks on them. I think people have just gotten used to just copying the link and, but
Yeah.
I like that. I want to make sure that every page in book, when it's shared, kind of looks like an ad. So we have a neat little image and a little blurb and a whole thing. So then when it goes, it's sort of packaged.
Mm-hmm.
It looks right, as opposed to just randomy stuff.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of things where an author website, you share a link and it has like a weird picture, and it has like the default title, subtitle thing, like, oh, that's a new WordPress site from, Bluehost or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
that's not helpful. Like, that's not what you want showing the world. You want to say it's the official website of whoever.
Right.
So we make sure that it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And I think it helps.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know we have issues on ours where you don't always get the image you're wanting. And so I think having that kind of tailored to knowing exactly what is going to be on there when you post it is real nice. How long does a build typically take, I guess, from scratch?
It depends. It really, for the biggest driver for author websites is book entry. So if you have, 4 books, I can be done with you in half a day. If you have 50 books and they're wide and internationally wide, and I have to spend a week alone just tracking down all the links because the author doesn't have them, then it's gonna take it might take a little while longer. It might take 2-3 weeks maybe, depending on what they want to do. But we're working a lot on getting it faster. I actually built a site the other day in under an hour. From scratch, using kind of the new tools that we have. and it was a little bare bones, and they only had a few books, which made it a lot easier. But usually, it's book entry is the limiting factor.
I gotcha.
It probably takes 10 minutes or so a book to do them the way that we do them.
Mm.
If I have to track down the links, because we pull everything out. We've got the samples, we have audio samples, we have we'll put reviews in there, we have everything kind of formatted. It's takes a few minutes.
Yeah.
But generally about 10 minutes a book,
Okay.
provided I'd love to say that I can sit in my office and just enter books 24 hours a day and I can crank sites out every hour, but sadly life intervenes and there's other things to do and services and stuff, so I don't have that much time to purely do book entry. Though I'm starting to bring my children into the business and say, guess what, you guys are going to do some book entry because I'm busy.
It's just like, I wish I could just sit around and read all day and write reviews, but sadly that's just not where we're at.
So some of the data entry is the limiting factor.
Yeah.
The design is.
I gotcha. So I know clearly we've talked a little bit outside of the chat about you wanting to kind of break into helping out book bloggers. So Rob, Rob's actually going to help FanFight. We're gonna do FanFight 2.0. We're actually going to go into getting a more streamlined website. One that's going to look a lot cleaner. It's going to be a lot easier to find stuff. It's just going to be better all around. So we're definitely looking forward to it. So I just want to know what made you decide to make that transition. I mean, you seem to be doing really well with authors and so forth, but why book bloggers?
Because I think there's a lot of synergy there. I mean, one, I do a lot of work. I have a number of authors that are involved with podcasts, that are doing videos and want things connected to their site, and I do that. And we do have a book podcast. We do Keystroke Medium's website, and we've that's been working pretty well, and they're happy. And the tools that we've assembled for authors seem to work very well for other book-related, website users. And I just thought it would be nice. I think that the book blogging community is a lot of people on a budget, and as a result, they use a lot of free tools, which might not really be what they need. So like we were talking about, it's hard to get the book covers to show up properly. So when you're on desktop, they look okay, but when you're on mobile, they don't. And at least on the indexes, and so you kind of just get like the sliver of cover, and it's not maybe it's not what you want. And I think there's some other things about book blogging, just like we were talking about things about monetization, about better metrics, about more control over how it's presented, and you are getting now more into more and more multimedia. You've got podcasts, you got this video, I mean, right here. And it's the free tools of WordPress and Wix and all the rest aren't really up to the task. And while Wix and Squarespace will help you make a good site, their CMS, their content management system isn't really as good as WordPress. So it's hard to index things as well and really get things to kind of self-populate. You have to like manually put everything everywhere all the time. That's really labor intensive. And WordPress does have that CMS, but it doesn't really present very many tools at the free level to help. You really kind of have to start paying up to get some of those tools. And I thought, well, if you're paying, why don't you pay for something that you really need, and have someone that actually knows how to assemble that and put that together for you. And I thought, well, I think that would be kind of the next thing, I think, for the book community to do. And so we have the ability to do that, and we have the passion to do that. So I was like, well, we should do that. And I'm very glad that you agreed to work with us on this, and I'm really looking forward to putting the site together.
I
think that we can start putting things together that would be affordable for everyone. And I know not all book blogs, some of them are a real passion project. People don't really have a lot of money to throw at it. They're kind of like, you know, but that would really, I think, enrich the community and give people a place to grow. And it's the same
Mhm.
thing I tell the authors. I said, look, if you get in early when you only have like 3 or 4 books, then your start costs are really, really low, because I'm like $10 a book. So if you only have 3 books, you're getting the site for really cheap.
Right.
If you come to me with 150 books, then it's not going to be cheap. I'm sorry, and so I'm hoping that we can kind of get some of one that we can boost larger platforms like you and really help interconnect you with our authors and really expand your reach and capability, because I think that works well for everyone in the book community. And for the newer authors, book bloggers, I'd like them to have a place where they can get a real foundation to grow in, and then as they expand, they have what they need to expand. That they're
Mhm.
not limiting, saying, "Oh gosh, I wish I had this," or "I don't know how to do this." You don't have to know. You
Yeah.
can just send us an email and we'll do it, you know, and we know exactly what you have. We can have it ready for you in a day or two.
Mhm.
And I'm really hoping that sort of elevates and helps a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you come up with and working with you on it. I know I mentioned it to the contributors this morning, and everybody's kind of hyped about it. So we're really
Good.
excited to see where we're going to go from here. Because yeah, like you said, we're pressed. It's been great. I mean, I've been using it for 4 years. But we're just kind of at a point where we're like, what's the next thing? Because we keep hitting walls, and in order to break through those walls, you've got to fork out money. And when you got to fork out more money than you expect to get certain things. We want to be able to promote authors' books, like when they have sales, and we can create advertisements for that. Well, the personal plan doesn't allow for that, and so you've
Right.
really got to get it to a personal plan. So you're talking 40-50 bucks a month, and it's just like, gosh, what can I do? And I think this is just going to be an amazing way to not only help us get our content out to more people, but just provide authors with more viewership on their books. I mean, that is the whole reason I started this blog, was to read books, especially helping debut authors and self-pub authors get their books out there to more people. And so I think it's going to be fantastic, and really looking forward to what you do with it. And Rob, just thank you so much for coming on and chatting. And everybody, ModFarm Design. I'll have links below so you can check it out if you're an author looking to create your first website, or if you're looking to change platforms, or if you're a blogger and this sounds like something you want to try or check out. Feel free to reach out to Rob. I'll have his socials as well, and check out the website first, send him an email. It sounds like it's gonna be a little bit easier to get in touch with him. But yeah, Rob, I'm so stoked to have you on here. I'm glad that we're able to work together on this, and just really looking forward to where it goes from here.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. And I'm really looking forward to the build too. I think it's going to be pretty great when we're done.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Rob, and enjoy the rest of your week.
All right, I will.